One big mistake that people who have been hurt in past relationships sometimes make is to take all that hope that someone new will come along and make your life happier and better, but then instead of getting to know that person you've just met, you start expecting them to meet your needs and support you in your struggles and to basically be your therapist. And the only partners who would try to live up to these kinds of expectations are probably pretty traumatized themselves. Mostly what this fix me vibe accomplishes is to send up a red flag to people who are dating you. It's an impossible position to put somebody in, especially when the relationship is new, and you'll watch them pull away. You are likely, when that happens, in fact, to have your trauma wounds reactivated, and the cycle begins again. So my letter today is from a woman I'll call Miranda, and she writes, "Dear Anna, I've been going to therapy since I was 12. I went till I was 25, and I'm 27 now. I decided to quit because my therapist was retiring, and I finally felt tired enough to just give up on therapy." Whew. I'm circling passages with my pen today because I'm going to read all the way through Miranda's letter so we get a feel for what's going on here and see if I can help. Then I'll come back to the things I circled. She says, "The main reason I think therapy didn't work for me when I was younger is because my narcissistic, emotionally abusive stepmother and emotionally absent father, plus my father remarried 6 months after the passing of my mother due to a 7-year battle with cancer. I never got any space to grieve, let alone be angry, voice my concern, opinion, and emotional needs. I've learned to keep quiet, cry quietly to the point my throat aches, and to this day I'm still scared for horrible consequences if I should voice my opinion or mind. However, the reason I'm reaching out to you is because I keep having failed relationships, and even in adult life, I never felt that even the most advanced PTSD professionals knew what steps I should take in order to heal from this." And then she writes some appreciation that she feels related to the issues that she hears on this channel. She feels heard and understood. Okay. She says, "I've been single for 2 years now, although I cannot deny I'm a love addict, and I have been sleeping around. It's not making me happy anymore, and it's actually starting to make me feel miserable, but it still tends to happen now and then. That's how I can tell it's an addiction. In the time that I was single, I wasn't feeling happy at work. I got fired again due to lockdown and promised myself I'd go back to school to study if another lockdown came to rob me of my job. And so I applied for university. I visited the school, auditioned, it's a music school, got accepted, and had a love at first sight moment with one of the students. I usually am the avoidant partner, so this feeling took me by surprise, but I knew I had grown a lot from moving past my comfort zone and self-help courses I had bought. I knew I was still scared, but ready to open up my heart again. Maybe that's why I fell in love with him so desperately. It all felt so meant to be. He felt the same. We had a relationship for 1 month until I started to recognize the breadcrumbs. The love went as fast as it came. I didn't want it to be true. Since he's much younger than I am, I wanted to give him time and space to grow and learn. But what I actually did was make excuses as to not talk about my wants and needs in a relationship. On top of that, he had been lying to me from the beginning and had been touching other girls while we were dating. I slowly started to find out his true colors and the truth about his disloyalty without actually meaning to, and he became colder and more distant by the day. I had already bonded with his parents and saw them frequently, so when he disappeared, I contacted his father about it. When my ex found out about that, he felt betrayed and broke up with me over text. I'd told my ex about my past, about how I've been ignored, neglected, and abused, how I'm scared to love, but trusted him enough to want to try. I had opened up to him. He smiled, giggled, and hugged me and said he saw no problem and that I was just being silly for having feelings like not feeling good enough. So his disappearance, cold behavior, and just plain ghosting came as a massive hit in the stomach for me. My head and heart broke into a million pieces. I took your advice to write about it, but I still feel the same and can't write about it without crying. Whenever I desire to talk about it with people, I only ever get advice to seek professional help instead of a listening ear. I've developed new ways of self-sabotage that I've never had before, which is abusing weed, alcohol, and cigarettes. They've made me ill with the flu twice now, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of this abuse. I'm sick of losing myself once I do decide to trust someone, even if that doesn't turn out to be the right person. 3 months have passed now, and I still feel ill, and I just want this drowning feeling to stop. So in all desperation, I hope you get to read my letter, because however difficult it might be, I'm now ever more determined to break this generational curse I'm under. I have a purpose in life I need to fulfill, and I will be forever grateful if you could give me any pointers to anything you think might help. She says, books, meditations, one of your courses, anything. Much love, Miranda. Okay. All right, I got you, Miranda. I can see what's going on here. Let's go through and break it down. All right. So you started therapy when you were 12 and continued going till you were 25. This interests me because what I'm hearing is you self-identify as a love addict, and you're in it, and you seem to be unaware of resources that one would use for that. And therapy didn't help. And it's been 2 years since you quit therapy, and that same 2 years you've been single, and you tried again. So I bet you there's a story there. But your therapist decided, retired, and you were tired, and you think it wasn't working because your mother was narcissistic, emotionally abusive, your dad was absent, plus he remarried. But I was just going to say, therapy doesn't need you to have healthy parents to work. The reason why people go to therapy is because they've been hurt by things like that. That's one of major reason why people go to therapy for help. So it's an interesting take you have that it didn't work because something bad happened. And I just want to first put in front of you, healing is possible despite what happened to you. And if therapy didn't get you there, in a substantial way that you could feel pretty quickly, I mean, this was like, 13 years? It wasn't working for you. So it's really important that you take responsibility for your healing and that you pursue different modalities that you think might be helpful to you, that intrigue you. You try them, you see. I have a video, I'll share it at the end, to help guide you in selecting therapists too as well. But your father remarried 6 months after your mother died, and she had cancer for 7 years. And I'm not sure how old you were at this point, but that's terrible. I'm so sorry. You're very young, even if it happened yesterday. And you say you never got any space to grieve, let alone be angry or voice your concern, opinion, and emotional needs. And but I would say, well, you did. You had 13 years of therapy. That would be what it's for, right? So I think it's interesting. I don't know what went on in your therapy, but I'll give you a sneak preview. Is what I'm hearing in your experience of your recent relationship is that your therapy relationship, that you confused it with a dating relationship, and they're two totally different things. So I feel like there was something not right about your past therapy in that you didn't have space to grieve, and you didn't get some solid skills in how to date appropriately as a young person. So I've learned to keep quiet, cry quietly to the point of my throat aches, and to this day I'm still scared of horrible consequences if I should voice my opinion or mind. Okay, great. Just putting it out there in front of you. Those are signs that it's time for you to try new things in healing. That's terrible. And I imagine you didn't have space at home to express those things. But I just want to reassure you, we can't get back our childhood, and we can't get back what was lost then, but there's so many things we can do now that are healing, and we can have close relationships, and we can express ourselves and become our real selves. And you're 27, and honestly, I know for me and a lot of people, it's a tough age, it's a critical age. A lot of stuff comes into focus because up until that point you think, I don't know, if I just got the right relationship, or if I just got the right job, or if I just, got skinnier, or some goal out there, then I would be happy. And as thing after thing after thing keeps not doing the job, you start going, wow, I think there's something inside. So in a way, it's very positive that you're turning in now and just like questioning what's going on with you and how you need to change. So I applaud you. That's very good. Okay. I'm reaching out because I keep having failed relationships, and even in adult life, I never felt that even the most advanced PTSD professionals knew what steps I should take in order to heal from this. I'm with you. I think it's very rare. I think it's really rare. A lot of people comment on it, but what do you actually do? Okay, so that's what we do here. You are in the right place. Ever since I found your channel, I feel relief because I feel like you understand what this is like, the pain, the feeling lost, what that's like. So yeah, thank you. I'm glad you're here. You belong, all right? I've been single for 2 years. I can't deny I'm a love addict and have been sleeping around. It's not making me happy anymore, and it's actually starting to make me feel miserable, but it still tends to happen. Okay, interesting choice of words. It's something that happens. It's as if it's happening to you rather than it's something that you're doing. And what you're describing, I mean, to actually like sleep with somebody, it takes a lot of active participation from you. What I'm going to guess happens with you is if you have CPTSD like I do, when it's not healed yet, it's not that you want to sleep around necessarily, but when the opportunity comes up or somebody's pressuring you to do that, the stress of it all, the stress of the decision and like, wow, should I? It triggers dysregulation and even dissociation. And so what you will see in people like us is we just march like zombies into the very thing we said we were going to stop doing. And the weird thing about, of course, like love, the hope of love, it is such a promising horizon of what would be healing for us. And then the immediate thing is just, just like there is no love yet, there is no relationship yet, just sex. Well, sex feels like love, right? It has a lot of similarities to it. It's also, comforting or even re-regulating. And that's a daring thing I'm going to say, but I think in the pursuit of just trying to get our bearings when we're at sea with dysregulation, like anything where there's a connection will do. And then later come the consequences that, of course, lead to more CPTSD symptoms, more dysregulation, in that we feel emotionally attached to somebody who never promised anything. And, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the dance of communication leading up to a sexual relationship where I think things are kind of going awry for you. But that all comes into play, and then this pain comes and the abandonment wounds are activated, and when it happens again and again, I do think there's a cumulative wound. It's getting worse and worse. So I'm with you. Let's help you stop this. Let's help you only have conscious decisions about how you want to handle your relationships. And we can't make people love us, but we can have boundaries around how slowly things happen as we figure out if something is love, okay? In the time that I was single, I wasn't feeling happy at work. I got fired again due to a lockdown and promised myself I'd go back to school to study if another lockdown came to rob me of my job. At the time that I'm making this video, there are so many jobs. And for a person your age who has not yet had an education, there are so many jobs. And so it is so painful to get hired, but I want you to make a promise to yourself that you will not lose your bearings because of unemployment, that you will pursue a job, even if it's not your dream job, so that you have a job and you have an income between things that feel meaningful to you, okay? And just yes, lockdown was terrible and it caused huge disruption and problems for people, but some of the biggest problems that it caused was the psychological phenomenon of isolation and unemployment. I do feel that it's so important for us to stay connected to the world. So I hope with you that there won't be another lockdown. But it's funny, my videos have been made over time as lockdown began. I have videos that are like, wow, this could be 2 weeks long. What will we do? And then it went on for years, and here we are. So just whatever's going on out in the world, will you make a promise to yourself to keep yourself busy and engaged and connected to people? With trauma, it is so important that you do that. So you applied to university, you went, you auditioned, you got in, yay. And while you were there, you had a love at first sight moment with one of the students. So, love at first sight, it's a thing, but it's not a trustworthy thing. And there are no instances where it is a trustworthy experience. Now, sometimes, because what you're seeing are physical features and a few outward characteristics of somebody on first sight, it's a clue that maybe it fits into something that you have. But if all you've ever had is terrible relationships, that resonance you feel with people cannot be trusted, because what you resonate with is relationships that hurt you. right? That doesn't mean that's all you get to have. It means that you need guardrails around your decision about getting involved with people. It means you need support from like-minded people, women in particular, who can go, all right, Miranda, slow down. It sounds like he was great and it's exciting for you, but of course it's going to take a long time to get to know him and see what this really is. And one thing you asked is if there were courses. I have a dating and relationships course for people with childhood PTSD. You're a perfect candidate for it because you're not in a relationship right now. And you can get in there. And the first thing I ask everybody to do is to write down all the characteristics that are important to you. And I would just say you need to know before you give your heart to them. And giving your heart usually is generated by physical intimacy. Before you do that, you need to know that they're single and available, that they're into you, that they can have a relationship, that they want to have a relationship before you give yourself in that way. Okay? And I'm not just talking about sex. I'm talking about all the emotional attachment. Because your mom died and your parents weren't there for you, you are like I was, you're walking around with this wound that's just like, I never got loved properly. Who will love me? Do you remember that book, Are You My Mother? I remember I had that book when I was a kid and it just used to make me cry. Are you my mother? What was it, a little bird or something? It couldn't find its mother and it kept attaching to all these different animals. Isn't that like us? Okay, do I have that story right? All right. So that's what I'm going to encourage you to do. So you were surprised that you had love at first sight because you're usually the avoidant partner. You knew you had grown a lot from moving past your comfort zone and self-help courses. Okay, good. So you had growth. Now you need more growth, right? I knew I was still scared, but ready to open my heart again. And maybe that's why I fell in love with him so desperately. So I'm just going to call you on that. You weren't ready to open your heart. You were ready for a thing that feels like opening your heart. But because your relationship only lasted a month, I can tell you with absolute certainty you did not know this person and the circumstances well enough to open your heart. You are the guardian of that heart. You're the gatekeeper. You're the one who needs to put those guardrails so that you don't just fling the doors open to somebody you just met and go, I don't know, I feel really excited. You're gorgeous. Let's go. You know, that's the impulse. And that's what CPTSD people do. There's two kinds, you know, roughly. There's the kind that rush in and they're the kind that just stay away and avoid altogether. So it sounds like you've done it both ways, but believe me, rushing in is not the solution to being the avoidant one. It's another way to avoid, actually. And it will leave you totally alone and in pain as you're experiencing right now. You say, it felt so meant to be. I would just say, you know, if there are any realities like that, people with CPTSD can't afford to entertain those thoughts at the beginning of the dating relationship. They can be very poisonous, misleading, and, you know, magical thinking. I have a lot of videos on that. And sometimes we do that to make a situation fit what we wish we had, even when the red flags are just like here, 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 here. You know, it's like, no, it's meant to be, and we're focusing on this one magical thing. You'll see that a lot in people's language when they believe like, oh, but it's like a past life, or it's karma, or it's, you know, whatever. God willed it. The proof is in the pudding. And the pudding, if you know that phrase, the proof is that the relationship lasts over time, even though it evolves slowly. You gradually get to know each other more and develop more affection for each other. And it's so important. So you're a 27-year-old woman and you met a much younger man, and right there, that's a huge red flag. An age difference like that is almost guaranteed, you know, got a time bomb in it. Almost guaranteed. You don't say how much younger, but much younger. So this was a school, I guess, as young as 18, somewhere between 18 and 25. And I just wouldn't recommend going too far outside your age range, especially in the downward direction. With men, they need time to mature for a serious relationship. Occasionally, you'll find guys who just grow up and they can do it, but guys like that are not mucking around in, you know, oh, this is an instant love thing. There's just a reality. You know, a lot of people, and it sounds like this guy, are kind of going to say whatever whatever they need to say to keep you happy enough to have a sexual relationship that happens quickly, that's easily available, and that isn't too demanding. And what happened is it went as soon as it came. You said, I started to recognize the breadcrumbs. You know, somebody dating you a month can't breadcrumb you, because early dating is just a series of crumbs. It's a set of short interactions where you get to know somebody and gradually decide, do we want to take it like one more notch up? And think of it as like, I don't know, 10 notches of closeness and affinity with each other before you would even think about sex. You can't do that people do all the time. They do it in a day, right? And if they don't have trauma, I don't know, evidently they can do that, but girl, look at us. Look what happens. We attach, we get emotionally attached, and there's no way not to get devastated. Even when intellectually you've gone, oh wait, this is a terrible mistake, I don't even like this guy, yuck. And still, we're like prisoners of our own emotions, and we can't leave because that abandonment feeling will kick in and it's unbearable. So what happens is we find ourselves, this is the sure sign you're doing it, you're crap fitting, you're staying in a relationship that doesn't fit at all, you're staying in it, and the sign is that you keep trying to make magical excuses for it all. And sometimes it's magical, and some people, I think this might be your mode, is because of all the therapy, you're saying, oh, it's because of this, it's because of that in the past. And I mean, of course the past influences you, but the reason it's really happening is because you jumped in. And that is the one cause of this situation, like everything that happened to you in the past, the culture, your mom, the abuse, her death, all of that stuff is a factor, but the biggest factor and the most important one, because it's the one you can change, is that you jumped in with somebody without knowing them, and you had a fairly predictable result, okay? So it would be very hard for a young person, and I'm just projecting on this guy, but it would be very hard for him to just sort of say no. I take it you're attractive, you're into music, there's some sort of commonality there, and you're just like, oh, I just want to give myself to you. So if that's on offer for free, basically, without any investment in you, and I'm not saying, why should the farmer buy the cow and all that, everybody's a cow and everybody's a farmer. Okay, but many people, and I think young men have a high concentration of them in their population, they would welcome the opportunity for an easy sexual relationship. And if there's no demands and you can't express yourself or set boundaries or require anything, then, they're just going to go right along with you until it gets weird. And it gets weird if you, being an emotional person who is hoping for this to turn serious, is a problem for them. Well, there it is. That was not a good person for you to be involved with, because that's where you're headed, which is age appropriate for you, right? So this is where I think it gets, I can just see the thing happening in you, the thing that's kind of going wrong. I can see it here. I was ready to open my heart again. Maybe that's why I fell in love with him so desperately. It all felt so meant to be. He felt the same. No, he didn't. Maybe he said he did, but he didn't. Or maybe he thought he did, I don't know, but he was not in a position to sustain that for more than a month. We had a relationship for 1 month, and I'm just going to invite you, stop calling a 1 month dating thing a relationship. I mean, you could, right? It's a matter of semantics. But a relationship is more when people have really invested in getting to know each other and have some kind of mutual commitment, and that cannot happen in a month. And you started to recognize the breadcrumbs, which I addressed. Love went as fast as it came. Okay, so at the beginning, it's projection and lust. You cannot have love at first sight. It's not the actual thing of love. It's the other thing, it's lust, projection, fantasy, and with traumatized people, it's all of the above. So there needs to be time to find out if there is actually love in going in both directions. And it takes time. I would say, never before 3 months. You say that you're a relationship addict, right? So if you're a relationship addict, for you, 12 months. You can't make that determination, okay? I didn't want it to be true. He's much younger. I sort of say that casually. I wanted to give him time and space to grow and learn. Okay, I don't agree with that. That's a good, you're talking a good talk there, but there's no time or space at all here. Your expectations are coming down like a married couple here. That's my tough love delivery for you there. What I actually did, you say, is make excuses to not talk about my wants and needs in a relationship. So, honey, it is too early to talk about your wants and needs. Now, I do advise people to get on the table within 3 dates the major things like, I'm looking for marriage, or I only want monogamy, or I don't want a relationship right now. I'm just looking for, something casual. All these things should be on the table very quickly within 3 dates so that it's so important to be aligned on those core things. But wants and needs, like having somebody emotionally care for you and take care of your pain around stuff, that is way too much to ask somebody. And I see what's happening is you jump right into the sexual relationship and all that stuff gets activated, like the genie gets out of the bottle. And you're like, take care of me. Oh, I know that one. And it can't happen. Nobody can take care of that. Like, you can't, it's an unrealistic expectation, okay? So if you're sitting there like going, my wants and needs are coming out. So you say, on top of that, he'd been lying to you from the beginning and had been touching other girls. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm going to assume sex. Sleeping with other people while you were dating. Okay, what that means is for him it was casual. And did he not tell you that he was also seeing other people? So if you end up thinking that that's the arrangement you have, either you didn't communicate that expectation. And many, many people are not exclusive at the beginning of dating. That's totally something people need to talk about, right? So if you didn't know, or if you didn't know him well enough to know that he lies about that kind of thing, it was too soon for you to get into a sexual relationship. So as much, a whole bunch of people here will make comments and say, that guy's a jerk and he was so bad. Well, he is who he is. The problem here is not who he is, it's that you got together with him. That's what's giving you pain. That's where you have control. Your locus of control is in the decision you make about who you'll be with, whether you will get together, how fast it will go. And I know, like, it feels like a tidal wave that you can't control when CPTSD is throttling you. And that's why healing the trauma is so important. Learning to emotionally re-regulate, learning to just get your nervous system re-regulated so that you're actually making decisions with your mind and not just a nervous system that's upside down. Just going, hang on to me, I'm drowning. You say the drowning feeling. I so know what you're talking about. You'd never have to drown again, but this will require some self-discipline on your part to go slowly. So how do you do that, right? I slowly found out his true colors and the truth about his disloyalty. So that's what dating is for. You go on dates and have dinner, coffee, take a walk, go see a movie, something like that. But you don't sleep together. And in that time, you will see people's true colors. It takes time. And especially if your red flag detector is broken, which yours is, okay? I know, mine was too. And you can bring it back online slowly. And I'll give you a sneak preview. You need a way to re-regulate. The tool that I use is the daily practice that I teach for free. The link is down in the description section under every video I ever make. So you can take that, the daily practice, it's free. You can learn it in less than an hour. Learn it and try it in less than an hour. And if you take that course, you get these email invitations from me to join free Zoom calls. I'll answer questions. I'm trying to get everybody in this community on board to try the techniques, and it takes a little help sometimes to understand the nuances of it. It's not journaling. You had said something here where you said, I tried writing about stuff and it didn't work. I just think you should go a little deeper into the technique. It needs to be learned and practiced, and for anybody who's really into it, come be a member in my membership program. We have a Facebook group. It's private for members, and in there, people have peer-led daily practice calls. There's like 3 or 4 a day at the time I'm making this video. Very powerful community of healing. Lots of support for people who are exactly in your shoes, with other people who are walking the same path and sharing the same values. I'm trying to slow down. I'm trying to get re-regulated. I'm taking responsibility for that process and not just thinking it's, getting out of the idea that it's all just coming at me and, what did I do wrong? We can start to help each other see where that locus of control is to change our fate, okay? He got colder and more distant by the day. That is really what partners, somebody you're dating will do if they were, a common reason for that is when there's a mismatch of expectations. You're just like, I'm having all these feelings about what happened, and he's like, I never signed up for that. And you'd already bonded with his parents, and this was the red flag to me. You bonded with his parents in a month. That's not right. That's not appropriate. Normally, people wouldn't meet parents. For people who have young kids, I'd say don't let a new partner meet your kids for a year. Make it serious before you bring that person in your life. It's very inconvenient, but it's important that people aren't coming and going. Now, with his parents, you bet he felt betrayed. You say I'd already bonded with his parents. You couldn't have. You would have met them and had a friendly interaction. So when he disappeared, you contacted his father about it. That's just not appropriate. I guess you know that by now. It's not appropriate. He may have ghosted you, but that's between you two. It's not appropriate to call his dad. And sometimes we tell ourselves, oh, I was worried about their well-being, but I don't think that's what it was. You saw him pulling away, and then he really did pull away. When my ex found out about it, he felt betrayed and broke up over text. I led into this video talking about a date is not a therapist, and that's what I'm hearing. You are used to being able to go to a therapist and have needs and feelings and have somebody have this response to that and be like, right, let's talk about it. Let me help you with that. That is not what dating is for. Now, there's a lot of that in a committed relationship. It will begin to show up as a committed relationship develops. But in a 1-month relationship where sex is really the leading thing happening, you don't get to have that. And that is why so many people are on board with this idea. We got to go slower. Our needs just jump out. Sex just brings them out of the woodwork, and they come out like, a pack of wolves at people, like, fix me, save me, help me, I'm alone here, and I'm drowning, right? But that's not their job. That's not what they signed up for, and I don't think it's great that they're not willing to show up for somebody. But when you don't know somebody, you can't become that. It's a red flag when you're out there dating, and if you get somebody who's like, we just had a letter like that recently the other day, and when I said it's when the love bombing won't stop, and somebody got into a relationship that seemed good at the beginning. This was a woman who got together with a man, and he just it was never enough for him, and he was taking his feelings to her all the time, and she was freaking out and needed to know how to get out, and they had already lived together. So a healthy relationship is where two people come together to sort of get to know each other, enjoy each other. Nobody's fixing anybody. And for a committed partnership, a marriage, if somebody's going into depression, or struggling with something, or they're grieved, then of course partners help each other. And sometimes that would happen in an earlier phase of the relationship, but not in the first month. I can just see this. It's your trauma is projecting on him everything that you need, but it's on this. Have you been to Disneyland, in the haunted house, where they project a face talking? It's on a statue, and he's like a statue of somebody with a projection of a moving mouth who's talking and saying, I love you, this is mutual, I'm here for you, but it's just a statue. If that metaphor isn't too weird. It's just not what it appears to you. So there's nothing wrong with what you desire. What's broken here is where you're projecting it and expecting it to come from, and sadly, it will push it away. So you had told him about your past, how you've been ignored, neglected, and abused. And a month is not necessarily too early for that, but it's too early to put it out there as a sort of therefore you have to treat me in a certain way. We want to get so healed with our trauma that we can relate it as a fact, as maybe something we have some sensitivities about, but not as a set of demands on another person about how they have to be. So that's not fair. And you told him you were scared to love, but trusted him enough to want to try. Too early to trust, right? I guess I was going to say that. You opened up, and he smiled, giggled, and hugged you and said he saw no problem and that I was just being silly for having feelings like not feeling good enough. That's right, because it's not silly, but to him, he's just like, I don't know, I don't relate to that. That's what he's saying, oh, stop, But he didn't take responsibility for it. He didn't take responsibility for keeping your self-esteem up. And he couldn't have, even if he tried. So when he left and his cold behavior and ghosting came as a massive hit in the stomach for me, yeah. my head and heart broke into a million pieces, and I took your advice to write about it. I circled that, I mentioned it before. Take my advice and actually learn the daily practice, write and meditate using these specific techniques. Do it twice a day and get a buddy to do it. Now you're taking my advice. It will help give you a place to process all of the emotions that come up, the ones that are good and real and the ones that are triggered by trauma and trauma talking. You have a place for all of them to go, and it leaves you just a little freer, a little more spacious to be able to change something in your life. Then, if you have women friends who also use these techniques, and that's something in my membership, it's kind of hard to put that together on the fly, but it's really important that people also share these values, because what we do here in Crappy Childhood Fairy, we're not here to bitch about men or women, depending on whoever it is who broke people's heart. We're not here to complain about them. We're here to focus on how we keep getting into the kind of relationships that hurt us. We're turning that around. We get free of the fearful and resentful thoughts and beliefs that keep driving us into a sort of terrible place where we can't see what's going on. We can't predict the consequences, which is normal for CPTSD. And we do that with the daily practice, and then with the community, we get support to start taking active steps to change our life. So for you, I guess you're in school now. I hope you're focused on that. This is really important for you to be in university. This is your important number one goal. And soon, dating will become possible for you. But if you're a love addict, did you know there's a 12-step program, and it's available in most cities in the United States, certainly, and elsewhere in Canada, Australia, Europe, and always online. And you can go to a women's meeting of Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous and find friends there and find a sponsor who will help you work on yourself. But it's all about working on ourselves. And it's very, very the seduction of thinking, I was just innocently going along and this person did this to me. Why do people keep doing this to me? And this is the tough love truth. You keep doing it to you. You are not healed yet. It's not your fault that you got like this. The wounds that happened to you are not your fault. But the behavior you see over and over again, it's not going to stop until you are courageous enough to heal. And healing doesn't happen by just talking about other people's faults. It happens by looking within and finding where you can change the way you're doing this. So that's what you'll find here in Crappy Childhood Fairy. Lots of videos, the courses, the membership, all of that. And 12-step programs, they're free, and my daily practice is free. So I hope you'll just, free is good. Free is your friend. Free means you can do it every day. And who can afford to do that, right, with a professional service? I also heard when you said, when I desire to talk about it with people, I only ever get advice to seek professional help instead of a listening ear. And that's why I say, get people who are on the road with you, 12-step programs or the membership community. You will get a listening ear, but it's going to be mutual. Professionals are there to hear you talk and talk and talk about it, for you to talk about what happened. Friends are not, that's not what they're for. They're not a therapist, right? You can talk to friends, but the friendship that can contain that kind of support kind of needs to be mutual. You need to be there for somebody else. You need to be hearing their stuff. Your pain can't dominate the whole thing, and that's what I found the worst when my trauma was driving me. It's so isolating for that reason, because I couldn't really care about other people. I was drowning. I was drowning in my own pain. I could barely hear what they were saying. And so the daily practice is where finally the listening ear for me was this piece of paper. And later, after that, I became a spiritual person who I've come to believe there is a power that helps me out there. And I didn't believe that when I started, but the thing was I healed so dramatically when I started just okay, fine, pretend you're out there. If you're out there, would you please help me get free of this problem? And it did get better. So I sort of leaned into it, and in 28 years, it just keeps getting better. And when your healing gets better, it doesn't mean that life doesn't still have problems. It just means you're able to rise to your problems in a better way and solve some of them and just adjust to some of them and do your best. And then as you continue to heal, you can start helping other people. And I have a feeling that would be a very nice thing for you. That is what I recommend to you. And I wanted to put in front of you, Miranda, and everybody listening, if you want to become the kind of person who is a good match for a healthy person, I've got some of those characteristics lined up in this video right here, and I will see you very soon.